Thirdly, most international cooperation can take place outside the U.S. framework. According to Philip Bolipian, Los Angeles Times, August 2011, the major economic, political, and trade issues around the world are almost all dealt with either through bilateral agreements between nations or by specialized bodies set up for that purpose. For example, the World Bank, IMF, EU, Asian, NATO, WTO, and so on. In all of these fields, the UN little more than an irrelevance. And finally, wars have their positive sides that nobody can deny. When we hear about World War, we tend to hear about new weaponry such as tanks, poison gas, and flamethrowers. But the Great War spawned new advances in our areas of science that now play an important part in our daily lives, such as synthetic rubber and oil, blood banks, ultrasound, plastic surgery, airliners, radio navigation, jet engine, nuclear power, just to name a few. According to popularmechanics.com and warhistoryonline.com, wars promote social development, right? Due to all of those reasons, the UN is ineffective and should be abolished. Thanks.
Okay, I will start my debate. I still remember when I saw a photo. In that photo, there was a woman holding her child who died of starvation. And I wonder what I could do for people like them to help them escape from starvation, death, and diseases. According to UNICEF.com, in 1990, there were nearly 12 million deaths in under 5 years old children, and 21 years later, the number decreased significantly by 50%. That result was thanks to ordinary efforts of the United Nations. And now people said that the United Nations is effective and should be abolished. Why could they say that? Why could they refuse the UN efforts to make this world better? I totally disagree with this opinion because of 3 reasons. First, the UN has performed a valuable service in preventing wars and peacekeeping. Let's see what happened in World War II. According to Britannica.com, when the League of Nations failed in preventing the war, the UN got a great achievement in ending it and bringing peace back to the world. After that, the UN did a great work to maintain peace for people. For example, according to UN.org, the UN made a lot of peaceful settlements that end regional conflicts, including the end of the war between Iran and Iraq, the civil war in El Salvador, and the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Afghanistan. Recently, New York Times have reported that UN passed resolutions on talk about Syrian war. That means killing in Syria will be stopped, and thousands of starving people in Syria will soon receive food from UN. The second point is that many UN organs carry out valuable work all over the world. We have World Health Organization, UNICEF, UNESCO, the International Court of Justice, and those organs have been doing great work. As I mentioned, the United States is working effectively to decline the number of deaths in children all over the world. Another example, according to British Medical Journal, WHO achieved great campaigns against diseases such as malaria, jaws, and tuberculosis, which have shaped a countable life and been immeasurable benefits to the economy of many developing countries. And let's take a look at Vietnamese history. During more than 50 years in cooperation, through its cooperation activity between UN and Vietnam, the UN aid Vietnam more than $2 billion. It's really an important budget for our countries to recover from war and to develop. Finally, as world become more globalized, the need for the global forum to resolve conflicts is become ever more important. In globalized economy, nations depend on each other never before. There are many regions and specialized bodies such as the EU, ASEAN, or WTO, etc. They can perform some particular functions in regions or specializations, but there can never be a substitute for global forum like the UN. An issue of U.S. foreign policies agenda reported that the UN was established to cooperate in solving international economic, social, cultural, and humanitarian problems. If the UN did not exist, where could the nations sit and talk together to solve common problems? So, I think the UN must stay alive, do its work to make this world better and safer. Thank you.
Okay. You said that the UN prevents war, and that is the main purpose of this organization. But if they don't intervene in internal governments, so how can they stop their intention to invade another countries? Back to the Syria civil war, at the beginning of 2011, how many people have died? How many people have to lose their relations and pass on the pain of starvation due to all of their waiting, and they haven't made the decision to stop it right now. And if they have to reach to an agreement, so how can we have the virtual action for this war? You said about the UN want to protect human rights, but how can they explain to for the sexual abuse that happened in some countries after the Cold War happened? You said about the decrease of the number of starvation or the death or something like that, but is that thanks to the United Nations, or is something about thanks to the development of general medicine? And finally, what did they do for Vietnam for the 1954 war in Vietnam? Because at that time, we're still not a member of this organization. Or so how can they protect the peace?
Okay, thank you, Mai. So, as you said that the UN failed in preventing wars, right? Then you said war bring us benefits. I think it's a not good position. But I maybe agree with you that wars bring us some new technology. But how many of them help people, and how many of them help to kill people and to destroy this world? I mean, new technology mean nothing if it helps to kill people and destroy this world. And let's take a look at the history. Let's see how the world is after the war as World War II and World War I. And how Vietnamese people suffer from the two recent wars. We need the UN to protect us and to prevent war. Back to the sexual abuse case in Central Africa. As reported by New York Times, that case is only done by a small group of peacekeepers of the UN. And the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon gave his apologies and his promise that the small group will be punished. In conclusion, I suggest that we need UN to protect us and bring the world better and better.
Okay, everyone can make mistakes, even experts. You can say that to cover up for the UN's failures. Imagine that your hometown is bearing the pain of war. You really need help, and the United Nations just keep looking. Then you have to go through homeless, losing relatives. How do you feel? It's always easier to forgive for the pain you don't have to experience. Easier said than done. The UN always asks what they promised to do. How long do you want to keep waiting for the United Nations? Life has its own way to develop, from primitive society to socialism. Suppose that we have lived in peaceful. There was no fight, no pain. There was no war. Then all of us here may be naked, because we are still in prehistoric age. Then when an organization becomes ineffective, it should be abrogated for the new one. Sometimes we need to accept the fact, even though it's not easy. In conclusion, we are no longer need the United Nations, and it should be abolished. Thanks.
Okay. It's undeniable that the UN has some mistakes, and some of its work need to be improved. But as Voltaire said, perfection is attained by slow degrees. It requires the hand of time. I think the UN has been step by step on the right path to bring peace for the world and make better life for people. I agree that we could point out some failures of the UN, but not to abolish it. We need to give our contribution to make it better. In this complicated world today, there are many problems threatening to nations and people all around the world, like violence, terrorism, food deficiency, climate change. We need an international organization to solve those problems together. As Hamaskio wrote in an article named "Do We Need the United Nations?" He said that we need the organization in present situations for the negotiation possibility is opens up. We need it as an executive organ. We need it for the constructive addition it offers international attempts to resolve problems. Let's think about the photo I described at the beginning. Do you want to that scene continue happening? Do you want to our children, our next generation suffer from wars again? Definitely no. So, the work of the United Nations must go on. And if the United Nations did not exist, we have to invent it. Thanks.